What board games are you looking forward to in 2024? Legendary Tactics is choosing 10 games in 10 different categories. Welcome to Legendary Tactics. I'm Flash, here with Cax to preview our top 10 for 2024. Cax, are there any honorable mentions that didn't make the list this year?
Well, I regret not putting Gloomhaven 2nd Edition on my list, but I confess that I haven't gotten through all the 1st edition yet, or even looked at the Frosthaven yet, so that one got cut.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't think anybody's gotten through it. One that I'm curious about, but I'm not quite ready to invest, is Kingdom Death Monster. There's actually 23 expansions coming out this year. And I never got into the base game, but it looks pretty incredible if you're into minis games. So let's start with our number 10. I'm calling number 10 a mirror game because I'm a huge fan of Root, the designer, Cole Worley, the artist, Kyle Farron, and Leader Games, and I want to mirror the experience that I had. Now, I didn't love Oath, but Root more than made up for that temporary lapse. So the game is called Arcs. It's a 2 to 4 player sci-fi strategy game set in a dark and silly universe. I love how Leader Games often contrast heavy mechanisms with light themes, so count me in for this one.
So for number 9, we're going to go to a political game. We had the chance to meet Uwe from Academy Games at Gen Con this year, and I caught a peek of a game that reminded me a lot of Twilight Struggle. It's Western Twilight. You choose one of 5 European empires in the years leading up to World War I. Each player works to spread global influence in the 3 arenas of military, economy, and diplomacy. It's a 2 to 5 player game that uses a rondel, influence placing, and area majority game. I'd love to give this one a try.
For our familiar game at number 8, I'm also including a Gen Con game on my list. It's Call of Duty, the board game. And you probably remember this one. It's a head-to-head tactical game where you're attempting to outmaneuver your opponent with hidden movement and line-of-sight mechanisms. It's familiar not only because it looks and feels like the video game, but because we tried it at Gen Con. So I feel like Sniper Elite, though, may end up being the better game, but I'll have to give it another try to find out.
So for number 7, we couldn't leave a nature game off the list. So when I'm thinking nature, there's no better designer to trust than Wingspan's designer, Elizabeth Hargrave. In 2024, she will release Undergrove. In this one, you're not dealing with birds. Instead, you're working to build a strong and thriving forest that connects to the fungi around it, which have diverse abilities. It's 1 to 4 players, and it's a tile and worker placement game.
All right, count me in to play that one with you.
Awesome.
For number 6, I'm choosing one over-the-top 1 to 4 player game. It's Stalker from Awakened Realms. They did the Castles of Burgundy Special Edition in 2023, ISS Vanguard, Nemesis, and This War of Mine, which reminds me of this one. It's got miniatures, a toy-like map that reminds me of one of my childhood games, Hero Quest, and it just looks like an absolutely massive and totally unnecessary survival dungeon crawl game.
Any Legendary Tactics list has to include one war game. And for this one, we're going to Company of Heroes 2nd Edition. So this was originally released in 2021, but the 2nd edition includes extensive improvements to gameplay and tactical choices. It's done some more balancing of units and faction differentiation. I missed this back in 2021, and so I am definitely looking at seeing what the 2nd edition has to offer.
Absolutely. We've had a ton of fun with that video game together, so I hope it doesn't disappoint. So for number 4, we have one obligatory space game, and you know how much I love my Star Wars games. So this one is Star Wars Unlimited Spark of Rebellion. And it's yet again from Fantasy Flight Games, trading card deck building game. It makes me wonder how it'll be different from this year's Star Wars, the deck building game, but when it's Star Wars, I don't ask too many hard questions. The artwork in this one looks completely different from the standard assets that Fantasy Flight uses, so let's hope it's a fresh game.
Now be sure to use the Force to join our channel and like the video.
Well played.
GG. So moving on to our superhero game. I had to go with Marvel United Multiverse. In this one, you team up as Marvel heroes to stop the villain from executing their master plans. Cbon Games lists this as a 1 to 5 player co-op hand management game that includes a modular board. At first glance, I think it will play a lot well with family members. My impression is that it's kind of a simplified version of Marvel Champions.
Oh, that sounds cool. So we have to include one reboot game for number 2, and my pick is Cyclades Legendary Edition. So I'm a fan of Matago games like Kemet and Innis, but I've always felt that the original Cyclades had a really great framework, wonderful potential, but something about it just didn't click with me. It just never felt like it quite rose to its potential, and it never got off my shelf. I wanted it off, but it just never did. So the original game designers reworked the base game to make it more dynamic and fluid. So hopefully this one will be completely reborn in 2024.
So for our number one, we have to put a sure bet game in here. And for this one, it's going to be one that you and I, Flash, will both love. It's Ticket to Ride Legends of the West. Now, this is a 12-campaign legacy game, and I know it was officially released in November of 23, but realistically, it's been impossible to get a copy. And so most people, including us, won't be able to get this to the table until 2024. The good news is we probably won't have to wait too long to sink our teeth into this one.
That sounds awesome. So what games are you looking forward to in 2024?
Now get out there
Get gaming.
and be legendary.